Welcome to Astrodology, the podcast that brings you knowledge, wisdom, and principles that can help you find the peace and comfort we all seek and deserve in our lives. Hi everybody, welcome back to another episode of Astrodology with Astrid. I really do hope you're doing well and taking care of yourselves. I am here on the day of the new moon in Gemini. I wanted to record this earlier, but life got in the way. Life interrupted a girl. So here we are. The nice thing is the lunation energy, the peak is the first 3 days, but we have 2 weeks to live in the quality of the new moon energy. So this new moon came in today. I'm recording this on 5/26 at 8:02 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're just under an hour as this new moon became full on the West Coast. So May, right out of the gate, May is the 5th month. 5 is the number of change. It's also the number of luck and opportunity. And Gemini is known for change because Gemini, that air, loves to sweep, lift things up and bring fresh air and fresh perspective. So the 26, 2 and 6 are 8. 8 we talked about last year as a power number, as a number of abundance. 8 is also the student and the teacher energy. It's all about the CEO energy. It's about leadership energy. And as we've been talking all year long, it's like becoming the leader of your own life. So 5, 26, 20, 25 reduces down to a number 22. And 22 is considered the master builder number. But you add 2 and 2 together, you get a 4. 4 represents, groundedness. So that's a good thing because Gemini can be very ungrounded energy. Represented by the twins. Gemini is represented by the 2 faces, right? So the new moon can be felt days before and days after. So leading up to today, over this past weekend, it's a holiday weekend, you might have felt the energy of this new moon. You might have felt some kind of excitement. This is also a melancholy day for the new moon to come in, with it being Memorial Day, as we pay homage to our soldiers and our veterans who risked their lives and gave up their lives so that we could be here. It's not lost on me because I have veterans in the family. My grandfathers, all of my uncles, and my brother are veterans. So hats off to all the veterans who lost their lives and gave up their lives so we could have a better life, that I could even speak on a podcast and you could be here listening to the podcast. So let's talk about this. We just got out of the beautiful, delicious, thank you so much, Taurus season. I love Taurus season so much. Now things are going to pick up at a higher speed. Things are going to feel more electric. You're going to kind of feel the static in the air as this air energy roams around. And trust me, there's a lot going on astrologically and in the cosmos right now. So it's a magical time whenever we have a changing of the guard. So I love it when it's a season and the new moon. So we've got double Gemini energy to match these double twin energy. There's so much going on. So the idea is committing to what is truly in alignment for you. This is about a reset, about new beginnings. Truly take that whenever we have a new moon each month, but Gemini, because it's bringing in fresh air, fresh perspectives, it's really about a reset, an amazing time to reset. And it's a time to clear the air and blow away those final fringes from the eclipse season. Like we have a couple more months for eclipse season, actually 1 more month. And so any residual heartbreak, any upsets, or anything that you're holding on to that you needed to let go of, now is the time to do it with this Gemini energy. So came in today, 5/26/2025 at 8:02 p.m. Pacific time. 8:02, 8 plus 2 equals 10. 10 equals a 1. So 1 is a number 1, like the new moon. The new moon in Gemini doesn't need any assist, although we'll talk about a few things that are assisting it, because Gemini always arrives with its own energy supply. Gemini is always full of air. Gemini is an air sign, which correlates to the heart chakra. And Geminis truly do have a big heart. They really do. If you talk to Gemini people, they're very compassionate. But Gemini is the zodiac's, they're considered the zodiac's talker. Talking, but they're the creators. They're great authors. They're great actors. They're great storytellers. And so Gemini gives us a chance to change our story. Do you want to rewrite your story? Do you want to say it in a different way? We get to do that. So the theory is, if we've had a horrible past, we can rewrite it as we go forward so that that new future overshadows the past, and we learn from that crazy past. Gemini is a sign of the twins, and we already have two sides of ourselves. There's a theory that we have a high self and a lower self. But imagine being Gemini and having 4 personalities, because they're already the twins, and I already said we have 2 sides. So each twin has 2 sides. I swear to goodness, sometimes Geminis don't understand themselves. The Astro King called out that there is no energy from Pisces this week. Typically in a week you have energy coming from all the zodiac signs. So I found that very fascinating. And the only planet sitting by itself in the southern hemisphere is Pluto. Every other planet from Saturn to Mars is either in the first 5 signs. So the first 5 signs are Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, and then what would it be after Cancer? Leo. So interesting, very interesting. So this is considered a really, really refreshing new moon for 2025. You know, it's been said the other new moons have been tricky and very intense and full of change and full of just intensity. So this is considered a good one. And this is considered a good one because Jupiter is in Gemini. The moon is in Gemini, and Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is in Gemini. And this is an incredible trine and combination. And this will be the last new moon where Gemini is in Gemini, and Jupiter is in Gemini, and Mercury is in Gemini for about 10 to 12 more years. So this moon is supported by every planet, and there's no oppositions right now. So this is a really good feeling moon. Gemini is a sign of activity, motion, communication skill, writing, speaking words, teaching, listening. And interesting enough, as vocal as Geminis are, they can also be very good at staying neutral and just enjoying the moment in different viewpoints. Gemini is funny for having an answer or knowing the answer to something and sitting back with the bag of popcorn watching things unfold. They're kind of devilish in that way, that they know what's going to turn out and go down, so they just enjoy the popcorn. This moon helps us to understand when it's the right moment to share something. So as we release things, at some stage you got to be able to open up and speak your truth. And we can't control how people will interpret our words. The best thing we can do is speak as succinctly and clearly as we can. And if the person gets upset or doesn't fully understand us, it's the speaker's responsibility, the messenger, to ensure that it's heard correctly. So you may have to restate it. This is all about people. Gemini is the people sign too. You know, Gemini energy is people, schoolmates, family, roommates, neighbors, everybody. Gemini is inclusive of everybody. Nobody's left out. So it's great when we have a new moon on Monday, because Monday is already governed by the moon. So I always feel like you have this double moon energy. Now Saturn moved into Aries. Aries is the first sign in the zodiac at 0 degrees. And this hasn't happened for 160 years. So this is a really, really powerful time. So Aries is a fire sign. It's not Gemini's opposite sign, but it is fire. It's bringing the heat. So Gemini is a sign of the twins that represent duality. So the idea is you could look at duality as just two sides of a question. Should I go right or should I go left? Should I stay still or should I move forward? So the mantra for Gemini is I think. Gemini's wheels in their brain, it's always turning. It's always turning. Power for Gemini is versatility. versatility. And the key word for Gemini is communication, writing, and research. Gemini is an air sign, so it's energy of the heart. So we all have Gemini somewhere in our charts, but Gemini is very loving. Can be a very loving sign. So May 26th, this new moon is emphasizing self-expression, curiosity, and learning. So at this moment in time, we can start to reflect on where we want to go. We can kind of see the road being clear. Gemini energy reminds me of the fork in the road. But if we just trust ourselves, we're going to take the right path in the fork. So the duality of the new moon in Gemini urges us to shed the fakeness. Although Geminis are sometimes being famous for, people consider them being fake. But I don't see it as fake. They're the actors. They're just good at acting, putting on a show. Because I think a fair amount of actors are actually the sign of Gemini. Because you have to wear many faces and many personalities when you take to the stage. So there is a beauty in just being down to earth and speaking your mind and being raw and pure. And there is a beauty in being able to speak your truth so that people can really connect with us on a deep level and not be so surface. So the mutable signs will be highly effective and will feel this more intensely. So moving from the fixed sign energy of Taurus, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Scorpio, Taurus, and Aquarius held the pre-spring season quite well. A Gemini is logical and wants to understand, using words, speech, and lots of talking. But Gemini wants us to look at the other side of things, like, this, but what don't you know? Let's flip the coin, let's flip up the stone and turn over everything so we know. So the energy of Neptune in Pisces is quiet, silent, contemplative. And this helps us speak from a deep emotional feeling. But again, there's no Pisces here, so this is fascinating. So we're going through an adjustment period astrologically, a huge adjustment period astrologically, politically, personally, socially. We're in this collective drama and trauma, and it's getting very interesting and wild. So the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury, the planet that governs communication. And Mercury is the messenger. It is considered the messenger. And the thing is, it's time for us to learn when to speak up and then also when to be able to listen. So Sagittarius, Gemini's opposite sign on the wheel. And Sagittarius is known for being very outspoken, speaking the truth, delivered with fire. So it's not as tempered sometimes as Gemini energy. Now Mercury, being the home planet of Gemini, is really making itself known this time. We have a lot of Mercurian energy. Mercury is making 5 aspects. Mercury is conjunct the sun and moon. Mercury is trine to Pluto. Mercury is sextile to Neptune at 1 degree of Aries and sextile to Saturn at 0 degrees of Aries. So we've got that fire energy on deck, even though it's not Sagittarius. But here's where Sagittarius comes into play, because Jupiter is Sagittarius planet, but Aries is holding that fire space for Sag. So Jupiter and Uranus are the last 2 signs that need to move into 0 degrees. This all started with Pluto. So this time of transition and, us going through this transitional period started with Pluto. Pluto was the first sign to move to a new sign at 0 degrees. And all we have left is Jupiter and Uranus. We have a lot of Aries energy, again, having the back of Sagittarius. So Gemini and air energy can help us get to the root of the problem and literally clear the air in our brain so we can actually really think. So the idea behind Gemini is to be authentic and be uplifting to others. Gemini is totally about mental energy and intuitive energy. It's about the visible and the invisible. And maybe the thing is, we literally have 2 sides of us, and maybe you're literally in a war inside of yourself. So maybe you need to make space for time to figure out what the inner battle is that's going on for you. So the key right now is to communicate, but communicate sensitively. Write that email, review it, spell check it, grammar check it, and then decide to push send. But we are moving into new conversation as this year unfolds, because again, this new moon is about new beginnings. And the idea is no one has the free will that we have. We have our own free will. So you have to give yourself the permission for a fresh start. So this moon is considered very cool and neat because it's considered a really healthy, great moon, because Jupiter is in Gemini, the moon is in Gemini, and Mercury, the ruler of Gemini, is in Gemini. And it is said that the last time we will have this, or the next time we will have this, will be 10 to 12 years later. So really capitalize on this energy. Allow yourself to be curious and open to possibility, like Gemini. That's what it wants us to do. Be also willing to open to not knowing. Not knowing. That's the other side of the coin. Knowing. The other side is not knowing. So this new moon is a reset, and Jupiter is here to give us some abundance of opportunity, abundance of curiosity, abundance of love, abundance of wellness, whatever it is that we need. And then May 29th is a very auspicious day because we will receive downloads because of Mercury and the sun coming together. Things will be illuminated and we will get the exact information we've been looking for. I believe that some of the information from the eclipses will finally start to shine through, because when Mercury and the sun come together, it's an amazing thing. You got shining the spotlight with the vocalness from Mercury coming through. So pay attention on Thursday, May 29th. Notice what people are saying. Notice their actions and see what you can see, literally. This is an excerpt by Infinite Succulent. Gemini energy can also have us overthinking every small detail while being distracted by all the shiny things. Do your best to stay aware of how your fast-paced thoughts are influencing your emotions with this new moon. During the Gemini new moon, we are guided to change our thoughts and welcome in new, supportive perspectives and beliefs. One method we can take to make this change is to discern between our emotions influenced by our thoughts versus emotions influenced by our soul. How do you distinguish between emotions influenced by thoughts versus emotions influenced by our souls? I think it's easy. If you say, I think this, I think that, you know you're coming from the mind, because the mind is about thinking. But if you say, what if, perhaps, I wonder if, these are then coming from your soul. Refinery 29 says, we'll feel a sense of confidence resulting from the celestial vibe. Looking forward allows us to walk on the right side of the street. As we'll soon notice, there's no better avenue to hang out, since every path is coming up roses. Even if we choose to explore the trails, they'll lead to the same road, guaranteeing a destined ending. We can thank Neptune and Pluto for this. Since we are guaranteed personal success, we should pay it forward by trying to make a difference in the lives of others. Once we comprehend these soulful passions, it'll be hard to keep quiet when speaking on behalf of others. After all, what good is having a voice if we don't intend to make some noise? And I love this. It's less, what is the point? I agree with this completely, but I'm a speak out zealot. I can't help but be it because, being Scorpio, we're quiet for a minute, but gosh, when we speak, it's like when Ethan Allen speaks, people listen. And I agree completely. I get so frustrated when people don't use their voice. They have information, but they're so afraid of coming across a certain way, so afraid of offending someone. And I'm a fan of saying, if you're afraid of offending someone, you could simply say, I'm afraid of offending you with what I'm about to say, but I need to say it. I think it will land completely different, but when it's covered in BS, people can intuit it. We all can intuit it and feel it. She goes on to say, as we embrace the lunar vibes of the new moon in Gemini, it's important to savor the day, Bask in the joy and glory that you may feel. Enjoy this rush of optimism and good emotions that are brought to our consciousness and the world at large. The new moon in Gemini manifests itself by the need for changes and spontaneity. Safety lies in thinking about your feelings and then sharing them with others. In closing, what to do during this new moon in Gemini. Remember, the peak is the first 3 days, and then we have 2 weeks to live in this delicious and amazing energy. What to do? We have to find our spark again. You have to find your spark. You have to take time during this next 2 weeks. Find your spark. Your light may have been dim. Your pilot light may have gone out. Find your spark. Find your zone of genius. There is something that you are super duper genius at. You're very smart at. You're very intelligent at. So this is a time to really go in the crevices of your mind and hearken back to like, hey, I used to be a whiz at math when I was in junior high. Hey, in high school, I was a history buff. Find your new zone of genius or create a new one. Spring clean. I've been talking about spring cleaning. Spring clean, as we get to June, we're going to start getting into the summer months. So spring clean your home, spring clean your car, spring clean your email and your voicemail. I was reading a thought that said you might discover an old email that has some information on it that you can finally use today that maybe you didn't have time to get to. Learn to breathe properly and be able to take nice, deep, rich breaths. Especially if you develop your breath work, before you make that next statement, take a nice, deep, rich breath. When you do this, it's going to come from your solar plexus. When you bring that breath up from your solar plexus, our power center, we will speak from a place of steady power and from our gut level intuition. Oh my goodness, this is such a beautiful new moon, the new moon in Gemini. I apologize that I'm delivering it so late, but again, the peak days are the first 3 days, and we still have 2 weeks to live in this beautiful lunation. This is about a fresh start. It's about committing to what is truly in alignment for you. It's a phenomenal reset. It's about new beginnings, and it's about finishing and wrapping up, maybe just for a couple of things that we've been working on as we came into the new year. Healing is an ongoing thing, so we're not just going to heal everything overnight. But this is an opportunity because Gemini is here with its wind and its delicious wind to clear the air, helping us to breathe and take that next step, to have that courage, and helping us think in a different manner. Literally, we're being spring cleaned by Gemini, by the air of Gemini. It's the resident of storytelling, of helping us to be more theatrical and enjoy life. So everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Astrology with Astrid as we talk about this new moon in Gemini. I could feel the change, the shift when we went into Gemini season this week. You can just start to feel, the more you start to connect with the timing of this cosmic energy, life becomes really, really fascinating and fun. So I thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Astrology with Astrid. Oh, I have a couple series that I've started. I've started a nighttime, I'm calling it a nighttime for resting and learning. So my voice is slower and quiet, and this is a time to learn. So I have something called the central nervous system, learning about that. So this is stuff you can listen to while you're falling asleep. I was inspired by my friend Gina because she said when she's having trouble sleeping, she just puts on one of my podcasts and it helps her go to sleep. And so she inspired me to slow down, to talk more methodically, and to really talk in a more soothing tone. The other one is negativity versus manifestation. Does negativity really affect manifestation? So more to come. And also, I'm excited because I have my first interview and I'll be interviewing more and more people. But my first interview was Satana Selvam. She is a certified hypnotherapist. It is such a powerful interview. We did it in 2 parts. So check that out. Unbelievable. And Satana is offering complimentary coffee chats where she can connect with you and answer some of your questions about hypnotherapy, how the process works. So take advantage of it. All her information is in the show notes. Okay, I think that's it for now. Happy new moon in Gemini. Take good care, and I'll catch you in the next episode of Astrology with Astrid. Namaste. Thank you for listening to Astrodology. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help support the podcast, please hit the subscribe button and tell your friends about it by sharing this program on social media. You can also follow me on Instagram at Coda Life Goddess or at codalife.com. Coda is C-O-T-A, Coda Life Goddess or codalife.com. Thank you again for listening to Astrodology, and I'll see you next time.